All right. For the latest now on the police shooting in East Memphis at the White Station Library, let's go to Kelly McAllister of the TBI.
I'll go ahead and give you my name. I think most of you may already have it, but it's Kelly McAllister, K-E-L-I-M-C, capital A-L-I-S-T-E-R, and I'm a public information officer with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. As I normally do when everyone's ready, I'll read a statement and try to answer any questions that you might have. As you know, we are very early on in this investigation, and we are quite limited in what we're able to say. Are you good? Okay. Everybody good? At the request of 30th Judicial District Attorney General Steve Mulroy, TBI special agents are investigating the circumstances leading to an officer-involved shooting that occurred in Memphis this afternoon. Preliminary information indicates that at approximately 12 noon, officers with the Memphis Police Department were called to a business in the 5100 block of Poplar Avenue due to an individual suspected of trespassing. About 30 minutes later, the same individual is believed to have gotten into a confrontation with another citizen inside a neighboring business, the Poplar White Station Library. According to initial reports, as the two officers attempted to talk to the individual, he produced a weapon and shot one of the officers. The second officer returned fire, striking the individual. He was pronounced deceased at the scene. The injured officer was transported to a local hospital in extremely critical condition. TBI agents are working to independently determine the series of events leading to the shooting, including collecting evidence and conducting interviews. Throughout the process, investigative findings will be shared with the District Attorney General for his further review and consideration. The TBI acts solely as fact finders in its cases and does not determine whether the actions of an officer were justified in these types of matters. That decision rests with the district involvement. The TBI does not identify the officers involved in these types of incidents and instead refers questions of that nature to their respective department. And of course, any available updates you can find at tbinewsroom.com.
So Kelly, who was it that called MPD about this suspicious trespassing? And was it here at the library, did you say, that the person was trespassing?
The initial call came from another business here in the 5100 block of Poplar Avenue. About 30 minutes later is when officers went to the library.
Did the shooting take place inside or outside the library?
The incident occurred inside of the library. I can't speak to that. You'd have to talk to Memphis Police Department regarding their officer.
Do we have an age or a name for the person who was called for trespassing?
We're still working to make that determination.
Were there other people, like children, other people in the library at the time? Were they evacuated? Do you know who was in the library at the time?
I do know there were private citizens as well as workers inside the library at the time. I can't speak to the number nor the ages of those individuals.
Have families been made aware?
The family, you would have to talk to the Memphis Police Department as far as anything involving their officers.
Did the caller give any details as to why it was suspicious, any strange behavior that would warrant a call for Memphis Police?
The initial call was due to trespassing at the neighboring business, and then there was a confrontation at the library that prompted police to respond there.
Can you say what the neighboring business was? Was it Carrabba's? Was it the bank?
I can't speak to that. I do know it was in the 5100 block.
Can you say where the officer was shot or hearing they were shot?
That's not information I'd be able to release.
Was this person known at all to the officers prior to this incident?
That would definitely be something that is part of our investigation that we are trying to determine.
Were they unsheltered in any way? Or
I'm sorry?
were they hospitalized?
I wouldn't be able to speak to that at this point.
There was obviously a very big scene here. Is there anything as logistics, how quickly more officers responded to the scene after the initial shots fired?
I really can't speak to that. Our response is strictly as an investigative agency after the fact.
Do you know the races?
Again, you'd have to talk to the Memphis Police Department regarding their officers.
Do you know the races of the suspect who died, the officer who shot, and the officer who was in the hospital?
The individual who was fatally wounded is a black male. Both officers, I believe, are also black males.
How are the
I really can't speak to that, but I know this has to be a very tough time for them.
When you talk about investigating if actions were justified by the officer, it sounds like the individual shot first, the second officer firing back. Initially, does it seem as though those actions would be warranted if an individual fired first?
I really can't speak to that. I do know the sequence of events that we've been told right now according to the preliminary information, so I'll have to stick to that. Our investigation will determine if anything is different.
Do you know if they tried to de-escalate the situation internal?
I can't speak to that. I do know that there was an interaction and which led to the shots being fired.
And no one else was injured inside of the library?
No one else was injured inside of the library.
Do we know how many shots were fired between the person who died and the officers?
Sure, that would be something that would be part of our investigation that we couldn't speak to at this point.
Was there an officer with him?
There were 2 officers inside that responded to these calls.
Would the TBI be releasing information if the officer does pass away, or would that be MPD?
Any information regarding the officers, their identifications, or their conditions would have to come from the Memphis Police Department.
Do you know if the individual has family members?
I'm sorry, which individual are you speaking to?
That was deceased on scene.
We have not made a determination yet about his identity, so I can't speak to that information.
But it was a male.
Correct.
Say how the officer is doing right now?
I can't. Any information regarding his condition is going to have to come from the Memphis Police Department.
Is there any video footage?
I can't speak specifically to any evidence that is part of our investigation, but any and all evidence, which could include video evidence, will be collected as part of our investigation by our agents.
Is this video evidence something that could possibly be made public shortly?
As I said, I can't speak specifically to any evidence that has been collected. That's not something that can be done by our agency as far as releasing the video. That is something that could be done possibly by another agency, however.
Do you know if the officers were both?
Officers involved are males.
Males.
Yes. Any other questions?
While I've got you,
Sure.
is there any updates you can provide on the investigation and the type of this case?
I will stick to this investigation and answering questions regarding this one at this point. Thank you guys.
Is the library now open?
No, the library is not
When will it be
open.
open?
I couldn't speak to that.
What about nearby businesses? Have any of them closed?
You know, I'm not sure. That would be up to them. Yeah.
And when will this area be open to walk through if you're just a regular resident trying to get through?
I can't really speak to that. Our investigations, the investigation takes as long as the investigation takes. Yeah. If you guys have any other questions, tbi.media@tn.gov, and any updates, tbinewsroom.com. Thank you guys.
All right, you've been listening to TBI spokesperson Kelly McAllister bringing us up to speed on the shooting that occurred inside the White Station Public Library today at 12:30 this afternoon.
That's right. And what she just said is that there were 2 police officers who responded to the call for help, and there had been calls from a business nearby in the 5100 block of Poplar, a so far unnamed business, and they advised that an individual had been coming in and out, and so the officers went to the library there, the White Station Library on Poplar Avenue, and confronted the individual who was inside the library. So the shooting happened inside the library, and we understand that according to Kelly McAllister, the suspects fired a shot at a Memphis police officer. That officer was injured, and the other officer, the officer's partner, fired back and killed that individual.
And we know that the injured officer, extremely critical condition. The last update from MPD is that the injured officer is in surgery. Extremely critical condition, in surgery. And then the suspect who shot him was deceased at the scene, so they were handling that investigation. He had been 30 minutes prior to being in the library at that other business you mentioned, and he was trespassing, and then shows up at the library, gets into a confrontation. They call police for help. The 2 officers show up, and it happened very, very quickly.
Indeed. All right. We have team coverage on this for you We have our reporters out there at the scene, also at the hospital. We start with Parker King, who gives us the very latest from just across the street from the library. Parker?
Yeah, Joe, Joyce, and a lot of questions we're still trying to understand as far as the officer's condition. That's something that TBI wouldn't speak to, saying we had to reach out to MPD for those ongoing updates as far as the officer's condition. To recap everything in full, Kelly McAllister, who we just spoke to minutes ago from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, said this all started around noon. Now, the shooting happened at 12:30, but around noon, a neighboring business next to the White Station Library called for a suspicion of trespassing, a very suspicious character trespassing on a business property. 2 police officers later responded, trying to talk to this individual. There was an altercation with another person, not a police officer, but between this individual and another person. Police responded in kind. This individual pulls out a gun and shoots one of the Memphis police officers. The second police officer returned fire, killing this individual who fired first. This MPD officer later taken to Regional 1 in extremely critical condition. Some of the things TBI are going to be investigating are the actions of the Memphis police officer. Were they justified in returning fire? That's all going to be part of their investigation and those results that come from that. Everything at the library is closed right now. There were private citizens inside that library when the shooting took place, we're told. And all of these investigations involve interviewing these private citizens to get different perspectives of what happened, to try and get a full-fledged narrative so that the details are lock and seal, so that we have a better understanding of what happened. Going to be looking more into this and to weed out any more details that we can bring you in our continuing coverage at 5 and 6 o'clock. For now, guys, live in East Memphis, Parker King, Action News 5.
All right, Parker, thank you. And the library opened late today. It opened at noon because of the bad weather we've been having. And then just 30 minutes later is when the shooting happened.
That's right. And Action News 5's Kelly Cook has been speaking to witnesses today. She joined us now from what they saw from their point of view. Kelly?
Joe and Joyce, we can now confirm the White Station Library obviously closed today, will be closed tomorrow as well as this investigation continues. We are more than 3.5 hours in. You can see we still have an active scene here. Certainly not as active when I arrived about 3 hours ago, but still quite a bit of activity. Crime scene investigators are here. The mobile command unit, 2 to be exact, are here on the scene as well, with a wide swath of this area that's still taped off with yellow police tape. I did speak to witnesses who did come out, and many said they never heard the shots, but this is what they did say. Take a listen.
I work in the Clark Tower, and I hear a lot of police sirens and fire trucks. They come to this place, and I get scared and like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah, just some scary, intense moments coming out about 12:30 this afternoon when that call went out of shots fired there at that White Station Library. Just a few minutes ago, I was speaking with 3 gentlemen who were patiently waiting to get to their cars because it was all taped in with this crime scene tape, and so they finally got the go-ahead that they can get their cars and they can finally go home. Again, this happened at 12:30 in the afternoon. Unclear how long that they will be here, but traffic is open here on Poplar. For a while, things were backed up, but everything's back smoothly. Things much more calm, but we can expect an investigation to go on through the night. We're live here in East Memphis. Kelly Cook, Action News 5.
All right, Kelly, thank you. That Memphis police officer was rushed to Regional 1 Hospital.
Indeed, and that's where Action News 5 Bria Bolden continues our team coverage live right now. Bria?
Yeah, we were told just about 30 minutes ago the officer that was injured, critically injured, is in surgery, still is in extremely critical condition. We've also learned that the officer is male. Now, we've been here for the last 3 hours or so. Our crew was the first crew on scene. I'm going to take you to some video now. We were here when the ambulance arrived here at Regional 1. That officer obviously in critical condition. Still, for the last couple of hours since we've been here, we've seen at least 2 civilians escorted by police inside the hospital. They have been 2 African-American women who I'm assuming are probably going to be family members. We also saw what appeared to be a surgeon sped into the ambulance bay and got out of the car. You know, for the last hour or so, we've seen officers come and deliver pizza to other officers. Lots of them have left this scene here outside the hospital. There's still a pretty large presence here of police. We've also seen sheriff's office deputies as well. Still lots of unmarked vehicles. So MPD is still out here. We have not seen the police chief or Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland yet. We've been keeping out an eye for them. We also did see an MPD captain, but the latest information that we have, that officer is still in critical condition, extremely critical, is currently in surgery. We're going to be here. We're going to ask for more updates. Hopefully we'll hear from the police chief. We're going to give the Memphis Police PIO a call right after we get done with this to see if we can get some more information. But for right now, live at Regional 1 Hospital, Bria Bolden, Action News 5.
All right, Bria, thank you. We did reach out to Mayor Strickland's office. We were told that all questions should be referred to Memphis Police for this case.
That's exactly right. We're going to continue to cover this. We have a lot more to share with you as we go on today with the shooting today at White Station Library that critically injured a Memphis police officer and left a citizen deceased. We're going to have updates on this story as it develops.